Wyoming, Minnesota, May 6, 2025. Let the record reflect we do have a quorum. Member Luger, Member Onstad, Member Schilling, Member Yeager, and Mayor Iverson are present. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have open forum next. Open forum is an opportunity for members of the public to address the City Council on items that are either on or may not be on the current agenda. Items requiring council action may be deferred to staff or boards and commissions for research in future council agendas if appropriate. You will be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask that you conduct yourself in a professional, courteous manner and refrain from the use of profanity. Failure to abide by this policy may result in the loss of your privilege to speak. Do we have anybody here tonight that would like to speak in open forum? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 1, consider approving the minutes of the regular meeting of the Wyoming, Minnesota City Council for April 15th, 2025. Are there any questions or comments? If not, we need a motion to approve. We have a motion by Member Luger. Do we have a second? Second by Member Onstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. To number 2, consider approving the minutes of the work session of the Wyoming, Minnesota City Council for April 15th, 2025. If there are no questions or comments, we need a motion to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by Member Schilling. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Onstad. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Schedule public hearing. Do we have, I have to open that up, don't I?
Not yet, Mayor.
Oh, okay.
You can start
You're
off,
gonna
and then
do
we can have let Mr. Erickson give his presentation to the council, and then we can open it up
Okay,
from there.
sounds great.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the council. This meeting this evening is the public hearing for the 2025 street improvement project. We had a neighborhood informational meeting. We've had the council have received the feasibility study. So a number of property owners certainly have seen and are aware of this. We've heard some very good feedback thus far about the project. Next slide. Might be frozen here, just maybe bear with me. Is anybody in the audience here for this project? I don't recognize anybody from the neighborhood, so I can certainly, there we go. So again, this is the project location shown on the screen here. It includes 256th, Grail Court, Grand Prix Court, Grizzly Court, and Greenwood Court. Next slide. I don't need to go through all of this in a lot of detail because you've heard it twice already now. But we're certainly aware of the efforts and how we arrived at projects, and this is really to inform property owners that we have a pretty good program moving forward right now, and we do street ratings for years, and we do council road tours, we do public works and engineering road tours, and we get a lot of feedback from the public, and so we ultimately develop a 5-year capital improvements plan, and that's really how we arrive at these projects. Next slide. The following are just a series of photos showing the condition of the roadway, and a lot of the distresses that we see are these real shallow potholes that we want to address before they become deeper potholes where it really impacts the base course as well. So we're able to take that top layer of pavement off with what's called a mill, and so we're going to mill and overlay that. You can see in the top photo there, you can see it's removing the top layer of that asphalt, and that's where we see a lot of those distresses that you mentioned. The second photo is really following back up with the final layer of asphalt, replacing what you have installed, or what you had removed. And so there will be some spot curb and gutter and minor drainage improvements within that area as well. There's some standing water in a couple of the curb lines that we want to address. There's some damaged curb that we'll replace as well. And then we're also proposing to replace the trail in its entirety. And that needs to be built to state aid and ADA standards. And so we'll want to add pedestrian curb ramps and things of that nature that currently don't exist there either, but we'll replace the pavement as well at this time. This is really the proposed improvements. You can see we're gonna mill the top 2 inches of pavement off and replace it with 2 inches. And then on the right, this is the portion along 256th. It does have a trail along that section, so we'll replace that trail section as well with the project. This is the section for all of the cul-de-sacs. You can see there's no trail on those, and so very similar improvement, just removing that top layer of asphalt and replacing it. As far as funding, 20% is proposed to be assessed per our city assessment policy. It does not include the trail. We only assess for the street and the drainage improvements. The assessment calculation is based on a unit, and so we look at the total number of units within the project area and determine if there are any subdividable parcels, and so we are not seeing any of those with this project, and so 80% being assessed for the street and drainage, and all remaining funds would be paid for with city costs, city funding. In the figure shown there, those are all of the parcels that are proposed to be assessed. There are a couple along last year's project that are not being assessed because their driveways access those roadways, and they're only assessed for the roadway in which their driveway has access. And so you can see the total assessment amount, again, just for the street and drainage improvements is $442,700. We take 20% of that, and we end up with $88,540 being assessed over 52 parcels, resulting in approximately $1,703. We do expect, bids are coming in really good. We've reflected that in our estimates. We hope they come in good by the time we bid as well. And then there's some variables, right? We know that there may be some underlying pavement that needs to be repaired as well. So that number may fluctuate a little bit, but I certainly would think it'd be under the $2,000 mark. Assessment process, we do follow state statute for that. It's state statute chapter 429. This is one of the required meetings. We do have multiple meetings typically above and beyond what is required. We find property owners appreciate that, and they're certainly more engaged, and we get a better project out of that. Property owners do have certain rights within that process, and one is the right to appeal, and so they can provide in writing either before or at the assessment hearing, and with the ability really or the statements to appeal that, and within 30 days they would be required to file that with Chisago County courts. As far as interest rate, that is set at the time of assessment certification. Next slide. I see I have on here a 15-year period. My apologies. We talked for this project probably more in line with a 5 to 10-year assessment, and we don't need to determine that now. But being it's under $2,000, we certainly would expect it would be at most 10 and maybe even more likely 5-year. And so we'll address that at a future meeting. Interest rates have varied in recent years from that 4 to 5.25% that we've charged for that. As far as assessments, property owners do have the right to prepay in advance of having to pay interest over a period of time, such 5 or 10 years that we discussed. And if they do not prepay, which is certainly okay, they would be applied to their property taxes. We would certify those assessments with Chisago County, and they would be placed on your property tax statements. Next slide. This is really just kind of a graphic that shows that public improvement process with either a petition project and the authorization to prepare a feasibility study, public hearing, kind of walks through the process. And so we're relatively early on in that process, and I can maybe show that in the next slide with a little bit more detail specific to the timelines and schedules for this project. You can see the top 3 items: the feasibility study ordered, the received the feasibility study. We've had a public informational meeting. Those have already been completed. We're at this May 6th meeting, the public hearing. If you're inclined to order the improvements this evening, we would approve the plans and specifications and order the advertisement for bids at that May 20th meeting. And then we would be able to receive bids at the June 19th timeframe, and then award a contract at our first meeting in July, and then begin construction sometime in July or August and have that project completed yet this fall. So pretty short duration project. So with that, I'll stand for any questions, and you can certainly open that up to public comment.
Yeah, so Mr. Erickson, I'm gonna start. For all the residents that might be watching that just had the road completed or what's going on now, it's a big difference in numbers, right?
Yes.
Can you explain maybe just really high level the difference between the two?
Yes, so the project that is currently under construction is a full depth pavement replacement. There's full addition of concrete curb and gutter on a large portion of that project. There's also drainage improvements more significant than what we have with this project. And then when we compare that to this project, it's simply removing the top layer of asphalt, and so the assessment number is less. The longevity of the improvements will also be less. And so there's a trade-off, but we certainly feel this is the right fix for the right sizing the project based on its condition and available resources. So we think it's a great opportunity to fix this before it becomes more expensive for the city and for the residents.
Perfect, thank you. Questions from Council Member Luger?
No questions.
Member Onstad?
No questions.
Member Schilling?
I have no questions.
Member Yeager?
No questions.
All right, so we need a motion to go into the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Member Schilling, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Member Onstad, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, is there anybody here wishing to talk some more about the road, this road project that would like to come up? None? Seeing none, we need a motion to go out of the public hearing
So
to
moved.
close it. We have a motion by Member Luger, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Onstad, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so approved. We are now back into our meeting. Number 3, to consider Resolution 250533, a resolution ordering the project and authorizing the preparation of plans and specifications for the 2025 street improvement project. If there are no further questions, we need a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion to approve by Member Onstad, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Luger, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so approved. Consent agenda. Items under the consent agenda will be adopted with one motion. However, council members may request individual items to be pulled from the consent agenda for discussion and action if they choose. Consent agenda number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, I'll pull 13 and 14. Any others need to be pulled? All right, so we need a motion to approve, again, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, and 15, sorry, and 15. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion by Member Onstad. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Luger. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 13, I pulled that one because I just wanted to say congratulations to Jake Burrell for the Wyoming Fire Department Chief. So that was just a congratulations to him. We're excited that he was able to be in that position.
Yes, thank you.
All right, and then number 14 is to consider the retirement of Sergeant Beardsley from the Wyoming Police Department. So I'm just gonna say we'd like to thank him for his years of service. And are we planning something maybe down the road?
We'll do it closer to his retirement date, yes.
Okay.
We just needed to get it approved tonight, and then we'll do
Yeah.
something at a council meeting
Okay.
down the road, yes.
Sounds great. Well, Sergeant Beardsley will be very missed, so, yeah.
Thank you, I'll pass that along.
Yeah, and then, that's all we have. So I will move to approve 13 and, can I do that, 13 and 14, right? Or do I have to do them separate? One at a time. Okay, I move to approve number 13 to consider the resignation of, oh, I got that wrong, didn't I? It says the resignation of Jake. Who's the new chief? Sorry.
Yes, that.
Yeah, we're all good. Okay, so I move to approve the resignation of Jack Burrow from the Wyoming Fire Department. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Sorry, Jake, we will miss you on the fire department, let's just say that. All right, number 14, to consider the retirement of Sergeant Lads Beardsley for the Wyoming Police Department. I'll make the motion to approve. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second, by Member Onstad, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved, sadly. All right, acknowledge receipts of reports of officer boards, commissions, and department heads. Number 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Do we have anybody who wishes to pull an item from the reports? Seeing none, we'll move on to communications. Number 21, Wyoming Police Department biannual body camera audit. Chief Bauer.
Yes, that's me. Mayor Iverson, members of council, as you may remember, every 2 years, we are required to have an external company come in and do an audit of our body-worn camera system. We contracted with Rampart Audit LLC, and we did our previous audit 2 years ago. Overall, we had a really good success with our body-worn camera program. The audit found that we were substantially compliant with related statutes. We did the public notice prior to implementing the body-worn camera program. That was done over 4 years ago at this point. We have a policy that was just updated with our Lexipol policy transition, and it reflects any of the changes that were made in 2023 with the legislature. We're currently using Axon Body 4. All of the data is stored on the cloud and is stored securely with Axon. We have been categorizing and is retaining the different types of video by statute, and our preservation is being done properly. I do audits on a monthly basis, just I pull 10 different cases and make sure that they're being used properly. And it's a great way for me to have a kind of a peek into the awesome work that's being done. I'm writing a lot of complimentary notes by watching these, and it's a great way for me to see the work that's being done. Some recommendations they had: there are some possible future wishes by the legislature, but they're not in law yet. And I did have some conversation with the auditor to say that I'm happy to implement them once they're actually passed through the legislature, once they're in law, but until then, I'd like to see where that goes. But we'll make any changes that are required at that point. I'll throw in, this wasn't necessarily in the audit, but Callie Resney does all of our body-worn camera maintenance and all that other evidence in her processing, and does a phenomenal job of keeping up on this. It's a huge undertaking, especially when we have body cam requests data requests from the public or attorneys or anybody else. So she does a really fantastic job, and overall we had a really good audit and really pretty painless along the way. So it's really the cops are doing a great job categorizing things. We stay on top of it, and overall it's a really good audit. So I'll stand for any questions that you might have.
All right, perfect. So we'll start with Member Onstead,
No questions.
Member Schilling,
No questions.
Member Yeager,
No questions.
Member Lugar.
No questions.
I have no questions. I just want to say congratulations.
Yeah,
You
thanks.
guys have worked really hard to put all of this in place.
Yeah.
And it just shows the dedication that our Wyoming Police Department has to what they do.
Thank you.
Yep. Number 22, Wyoming Fire Department Performance Measures, Q1. I'm thinking that's Chief Bauer.
It's also me. Let's see. So as you may remember from a work session at the end of, or it might have been the beginning of this year, I don't remember off the top of my head. We started looking at doing some performance measures within the fire department, just to really get a better sense of where areas we might need to improve, what areas we're really doing well in, and even that when we've gone through the data over the first quarter of the year, we possibly will make some changes throughout the year, just as we start seeing, this also would be a good thing to track. So this is our first version that we'll put out. But as you can see, incident volume, 70 calls in the first quarter. A lot of them are medical related, but we did have quite a few fire responses as well. As far as the response performance, the response calculations that we're using, as I anticipated, are 100% of the time we're making it within the calculation. That still isn't the desired goal that I'm hoping for, even though it is 100%, because we're still not able to access arrival times of separate apparatus or separate vehicles through Shizuoka County Dispatch. Only the first arriving vehicles being logged as a time, and that usually would be a chief vehicle. So on like a structure fire, what we want to know is when is the first arriving apparatus or truck that can take action. That's what we need to know, and and we currently don't have that ability. So we're working through some manual ways to do that, so we hope to have better data in there, and then you'll see some fluctuation in our response goals at that point. But, again, overall, doing really well in that area. Incident commander on scene, we're at 100% for most calls, 83% for medicals. They're not even really required on medicals, but as you can see, we tracked it just as 83% of the time we have an officer or a command level person from the fire department responding. Our responder numbers overall, we're doing really well in those areas, especially for alarms and medicals. Fire calls with that benchmark that was set with Chief Milligan, we're at about 28% of the time we're having 10 firefighters from Wyoming on scene. So that's, we'll continue to monitor that and see, again, that's, when we have 23, 24 active firefighters and we're looking for 10 on a fire, that's a high number considering the number of firefighters we have. Mutual aid, we're providing more mutual aid than we're receiving. We had 4 during that quarter where we provide mutual aid to other communities in our area. We didn't have any public education outreach events in the first quarter. It's generally a slower time, but still we'd like to, be a little more proactive in that area to try and do some community engagement. Recruitment and staffing. This was a really good quarter for recruiting overall. 3 firefighter applications and 7 EMS responder applications. As you saw earlier in the council meeting, we did have 3 EMS responders that were moving forward in the process, which is a fantastic next step for us. Overall, with that 28 goal for having active firefighters or EMS responders, we're in that 23 to 24. Working on looking at response numbers, just making sure that the firefighters we do have are meeting the minimum call volumes that is set by policy. So we'll continue to work through that. 8 incidents with recorded property loss. We don't have a dollar value. That's a difficult, we don't have the dollar value attached to that. So any property damage is categorized there. As far as our equipment goes, everything is within its expected service life. Ladder truck has reached 100% of its intended lifespan. One thing that did change, and you'll notice when we work through budget session this year, some of the requirements for using a fire truck for 30 years really is just not recommended anymore. They're looking at 15, doing refurbs on them, and then max of 25 years. So we have that reflected in there, and we'll continue to monitor what that looks like as well. We haven't done any fire inspections. We know that's something we need to work on. We'll address that possibly through the budget workshop or budget session this year. And then health and wellness, we've met on that. I worked on it over the last couple weeks, and we've got some good next steps we'll take a look at. But those benchmarks are still those performance measures are still being addressed. So that's just a quick summary. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I'm curious about the 12 structural fires in March. Is that usual to see more of an uptick in early spring?
So that could be anything, when you look at structure fire, wildland fire, that could be anything that's on fire gets categorized as that way. So, realistically, that could be a grass fire, along the side of the freeway, and that would categorize as that. But as it's been very dry as well, all those type of things come into play. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Member Schilling, questions?
No questions.
Member Yeager?
No questions.
Member Luger?
No questions.
Member Elmstead?
No questions.
All right, thank you for that update. We appreciate that. Let's see, where are we at? Number 22, let's see, we got that. 23. Arbor Day event 2025, and I believe that's Mr. McFarland.
That's me, yep. Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, the city did hold its annual Arbor Day tree planting event on Saturday, April 26th, from 11 to 1. We had roughly 25 volunteers out there, all made up from local scout packs. You actually met 57731, the troop. They were the ones to do the last little library here. So they were out all day. They helped us plant 6 rather large trees out at Comfort Park. And so I know that the kids got a lot of work done for sure, especially as the soil changed from kind of loamy to everything that we have here, sand, and then we got to clay eventually too. So, but no, it was great. There's now 6 new trees out at Comfort Park.
Did they play disc golf too while they were out there?
No, we did watch some people come and throw some
Nice.
some frisbees. So
All right, that's awesome. We'll start with Member Yeager with any questions?
No questions.
Member Luker,
Also no questions.
Member Onstad,
I was going to ask about the disc golf too, but other than that, no questions.
Member Schilling.
No questions. I love this.
All right, and then number 24, Wyoming Touch a Truck. I believe that's again Mr. McFarland.
Yep, from one event that did happen to one that's going to happen. We'll do our touch truck again this year on Saturday, June 7th from 10 to noon out at Goodview Park again. We're currently in the process of reaching out to different vendors. We've confirmed a few such as Rosenbauer, Wyoming PD and Fire, Fairview EMS, the county sheriff, and we're still reaching out to more as well. Expecting about the same number, if not more than last year, of trucks out there. Overall, I think it's one of the most fun events that I get to go to each year. So definitely looking forward to doing that again this year.
And it's at Goodview Park, right?
Yep, at Goodview again.
All right. Questions from council? Let's see, we are Member Luger,
No questions.
Member Onstad,
No questions.
Member Schilling,
No questions.
Member Yeager,
No questions.
and I have no further questions. Good job. Number 25, Arrowhead Transit Phase 3. I believe that's Mr. Linwood.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Members of council, this is an update. Arrowhead Transit has been busy working on a redesigned transit system, and they'll have a kickoff, public input, celebration initiative on June 2nd, 2025. In Cambridge, as part of their Ride Smart in 2025, they have a new redesigned website along with what they believe, and I think so as well, will have easier usability and end user as far as their website and trying to figure out how their routes are structured and where you can go on them. So I think there's now 12 new routes. They have new dial-ride boundaries and then some more consistent loop timing in regards to how you can get on and get off. So I think upgrades to the system as they continue to see a growth in ridership on that. If you go on their website, they do have some docs that identify a little more on what the different times are and things like that, but a few more route opportunities now in Wyoming as well through this ridership. So just something to let the public know about, and I think the city will make a point to try to get this on our social media pages to let people that utilize it or want to utilize it more, that there is new routes and new accessibility to hopefully understand those routes better.
Okay, will we be able to have a link on our webpage?
Certainly, yep, we certainly
I
can.
think that would be very helpful. Okay, so questions? Did I start with you last time? Who did I
I
start with
wasn't
last
paying
time?
attention.
Let's go with
Claire.
Member Onstad.
I have no questions.
Member Schilling,
No questions.
Member Yeager,
No questions.
Member Luker.
No questions.
All right. So we'll move on to new business, number 26, to consider and approve the 2024 City of Wyoming audit presentation. And Mr. Linwood, are you starting with that first?
I can start. Mr. Arundel is here from Bergen BKV, and he will be doing the presentation on our 2024 audit summation overview for the council, and then allow to ask any questions at the end of that.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Council. I'm Aaron Dahl, Audit Manager with Bergen KDV. Appreciate the opportunity to present here tonight and the opportunity to serve as your city's auditors again this year. So we'll start kind of with the financial communications. Starting kind of basing on the responsibilities. So management is responsible for the financial statements. We as auditors are responsible to express an opinion on the financial statements. For the year ended December 31st, 2024, we did issue an unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion we can give as auditors. So a great job by the finance team and city staff in accomplishing that again this year. With that opinion, it provides assurance that the financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. We also issue a report on the government auditing standards, and happy to report no audit findings this year. And then the last report relates to the Minnesota legal compliance. So we take a look at things like bed testing, conflicts of interest, collateral, things of that nature. Happy to report no legal compliance findings as well. Next, we'll kind of jump into some of the financial analysis. So that's contained in the communications letter. Starting with the general fund revenues, we have the past 5 years presented here. Overall for 2024, revenue did increase by about $82,000 or 1.7% compared to the prior year. Revenue from taxes and assessments increased by about $499,000 with an increase in the tax levy allocation for the general fund. largest decrease was in the intergovernmental revenue category, which decreased by about $450,000 due to greater public safety aid and then American Rescue Plan Act revenue in 2023. So some of those federal ARPA funds were used up in the prior year. Licenses and permits increased by about $74,000 due to greater building activity in 2024 compared to 2023. Next, we have the expenditures for the general fund over the past 5 years. Overall here, expenditures increased by about $226,000 or 5.6% compared to the prior year. Public safety expenditures increased by about $184,000 with additional spending of that public safety aid received in 2023, along with some higher expenditures related to salaries and benefits based on the number of employees and program hours for the program. General government expenditures increased by about $60,000, due in part to increases in professional service and supply costs. And these increases were partially offset by a decrease in culture and recreation expenditures of about $48,000 with lesser repair and maintenance needs for the year. And the other categories were relatively in line with the previous year. Next, we have the general fund revenues kind of broken out by percentage here. So the biggest increase from 2023 to 2024 was in that taxes and special assessments category, which increased from about 76% up to about 85%. Licenses and permits also saw a slight increase from 3.5% up to 4.9%. And the main offset there was in the intergovernmental revenue category, which dropped from about 14% down to 4.8%, again, related to that public safety aid and the ARPA funding. Similar charts here on the expenditure side. So public safety continues to have the majority with 55.2%, which was up from 53.8% in the prior year. General government had a slight uptick from 16.7 to 17.2. And the offsets here were public works, which dropped from 23.9 down to 22.4, and culture and rec, which dropped from 5.4 down to a flat 4%. Next, we have the general fund budget to actual results. So the council did approve a budget that called for about $4.7 million in both revenues and expenditures for the year. Actual revenues came in about $260,000 over budget, while the actual expenditures were about $417,000 under budget. The net other financing uses totaled $538,000, so that was driven by transfers out of the general fund based on some of that surplus. Even with that, the variances allowed fund balance to increase by about $139,000 for the year. Taking a look at the revenue side, actual revenues of about $4.9 million came about 5.5% over budgeted revenues of $4.7 million. Miscellaneous revenues were $179,000 over budget, due in large part to investment income and reimbursements exceeding the budgeted amounts. Licenses and permits was about $89,000 over budget, with again that greater building permit activity than anticipated, while the other categories were relatively in line with the budgeted amounts. On the expenditure side, actual expenditures of $4.3 million were under budgeted expenditures of $4.7 million by about 8.9%. Largest variance here was in the public safety expenditures, which were $294,000 under budget, due in part to expenditures related to salaries, benefits, insurance costs, and maintenance costs coming in less than anticipated. Culture and recreation was about $84,000 under budget, with some salaries and benefit and the repair and maintenance costs coming in less than budgeted, while the other categories were, again, relatively in line with the budget. All right, next we have the general fund balance for the past 5 years. So the unrestricted fund balance at the end of 2024 of about $3.3 million represented about 8 months or 65.8% of 2024 expenditures. The city's fund balance policy does target an amount not less than 55% of the subsequent year's budgeted expenditures, and happy to report at the end of 2024 it did represent about 66.4, so a nice little wiggle room there for the general fund balance. Next we have tax capacity rate and the tax levy for the 5 years presented here. So Breaking that down, kind of taking a look at the 5-year trend, that tax capacity has increased by about 5.1 million or 55.2% over that 5-year trend. Over that same time frame, the tax levy has increased by about 1.2 million or 28.7%. So kind of as a result of that tax capacity increasing at a higher rate than the tax levy, you'll see that tax capacity rate has decreased from about 43.6% in 2020 down to 37.9% at the end of 2024. Next, we'll take a look at the enterprise funds, and starting with the water fund operations here. So operating revenues decreased by about 35,000 or 4.8%, kind of based on the water usage for the year. Expenses increased by about 192,000 or 31.8% for the year, based on allocations of salaries, benefits, pension expense recognized, and then depreciation expense as well. The end result here was an operating loss of about 112,000, which includes that depreciation number. Operating income without depreciation still had a surplus of about 148,000. We have the net position next for the water fund. For the past 5 years, that did decrease slightly by about 23,000 in 2024. The main driver there, net investment in capital assets, actually did increase by about 734,000, with the unrestricted side of things decreasing by about 757,000. Next, we have the sewer fund operations. Revenues here decreased by about 14,000, with expenses increasing by about 236,000. Some additional expenses are again related to the allocation of salaries and benefits, repairs and maintenance, and also some improvement costs for the year. The end result here was an operating loss of about 380,000, including that depreciation figure. And if you take out that depreciation, slight surplus there of about 22,000. The net position for this one decreased overall by about 197,000. The unrestricted portion decreased by about 226,000, with the net investment in capital asset portion increasing by 30,000. Next, we have the surface water fund. Operating revenue here increased by about 5,000. Operating expenses increased by 25,000. Expenses increased in large part due to greater repair and maintenance needs for the surface water fund. The end result here was operating income of 127,000, which again was positive for the second consecutive year. And then that operating income without depreciation sat at 183,000. And then lastly, the net position, again for the surface water fund. Overall, that total increased by about 157,000. And the net investment portion decreased by 55,000, with the unrestricted portion increasing by about 213,000. With that, I'll open it up to any questions or comments the council may have.
All right, and we will start with Member Schilling.
I don't have any questions. Thank you for the presentation.
Member Yeager?
I do have a question about the water and sewer funds operating at a loss when depreciation is factored in. I mean, why is this happening despite following the rate study's recommendation?
Rob, do you want to touch on that one?
I can. We do have Jesse Sturts here as well. I think last year we saw some anomalies within what we believe are anomalies within our enterprise fund. We did have a trunk water main project that was finished, and that was calculated within our rate studies, but it was a larger number in regards to that. It was 821,000, so we utilized about 450,000 of ARPA funds. We had some major equipment repairs. We had a number of unanticipated water main breaks. We did have to replace some equipment at well number 3. And then the South Tower mixer supply install, due to some of that work being moved into 2024 instead of 2023. We did have the larger sewer upsizing project as well in 2024, and then a number of lift station repairs as well, and then an unanticipated sewer lining. So I think there were some things, especially within our capital and just maintenance items, that were a little more than we would usually see in a year, but we will continue to watch our water and sewer and make sure that this isn't a consistent theme that is going forward, but we'll be already monitoring in 25, and we'll continue to do so through the rest of the year.
Because, I mean, my concern, when we did the rate study, you know, the consultant was reassuring that we would finally operate at a profit or expenses, revenues over expenses. And so to see that, you know, still operating at a loss, do we anticipate continuing to operate at a loss for the duration of the rate study?
Well, I think years past, we've had operating losses with depreciation. That's been fairly normal, and our operating has been fine, but we've had losses with depreciation, so I think you find that pretty consistent throughout most of our audits. Like I said, this year we did have some unanticipated costs that we normally don't see. We are hopeful, based on the rate study, the rates and the budget that was put in place for '25, and that will track a little more appropriately. We won't see as much of that with depreciation profit being as low, and hopefully that'll be in a better place in '25. But we will continue to monitor that, and if necessary, we can work with the individuals who did the rate study and just to make sure that we are in a good place on these funds. We're still in a very strong net position on both the water and sewer fund, but we will continue to watch those closely.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Member Luker,
No questions.
Member Onstad.
No questions.
I have one question to whoever wants to answer this. So we did have 3 or 4 water main breaks this last year. I want to say it's 3.
In '24, we had 1 water main break and 2 service repairs that
Okay.
were on our side of the curb stop.
Okay, all right. And just in general, how often does that normally happen? I mean, is there any way to prevent that? I can't imagine unless you go down and you put a camera in and look at everything. Am I right on that, or?
I can let Mr. Reeves, but I think water main breaks are kind of a normal. We've been pretty lucky up in Wyoming,
Yeah.
I think, due to a lot of our sandy soils. But
Our soils help a lot.
some of the service water connections, I think those are somewhat, I don't want to say anomalies, but not as, we don't anticipate those as often, and we had some fairly significant costs on a couple of those last year. I don't know, Mr. Reeves, if you wanted to add anything.
No, what I've seen has been a short window of time. What I've seen has been about 1 break a year.
Okay.
And I can attribute that to some of the soils, like City Administrator would have mentioned. Our infrastructure is pretty new also, so I think going forward, we can anticipate, even with taking into account our soils, as infrastructure ages, it will break down. So that should be, but that's a ways down the line.
Yeah, that was kind of my question. So it's pretty hard to plan for them, although there is a contingency plan if something like that does happen, correct?
Correct.
It's kind of built into some of this, right? So, but we don't have crystal balls.
We're at 1 break for '25.
Okay.
We did have one in January.
Oh, that's right, that's why I was thinking, yeah.
And
'cause it was-
it lined up with, it was the coldest weekend of the year. It
Yeah.
was actually starting to warm up, which is when you start to see more breaks.
Yeah.
And it was in an older area of town where the infrastructure was older, so it was pretty
Okay.
dead on.
Perfect, thank you. Mr. Onstad, Councilmember Onstad has a question, an additional question.
We also did an extension of the water main that went underneath the freeway.
Correct.
Is that included in any of this, or?
We did have in the rate study that, that was within that, just a larger project on that. Essentially, we utilized some ARPA funds for that. So it was approximately half, the project cost on that for the water main was about $825,000. I think we used $450,000 of ARPA. The rest would have been coming out of our water fund proceeds for that capital investment and putting that water under the freeway.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
well, it looks like we're gonna eventually see some good things coming out of that, so. All right, thank you so much. We appreciate it, Mr. Dahl, for coming in.
Good, thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we need to approve the 2024 City of Wyoming audit presentation. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve by Member Schilling. Do we have a second by Member Luger? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. Number 27, to consider approving an electronic sign policy for the City of Wyoming electric sign, which I am so excited to finally have that. I feel like we're a big city. So, Mr. Linwood, are you gonna work with us
So
on that?
Mr. McFarland.
Mr. McFarland, all right.
Yes, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. As you probably remember, the Wyoming City Council approved the purchase for the city electronic sign at their regular meeting on December 17th, 2024. That sign was purchased using American Rescue Plan Act funds, or ARPA funds, as well as through a contribution from the city's Economic Development Authority, or EDA. The sign was installed during the week of April 21st. It is now out by Railroad Park, just not on yet. So we're excited to use this new communication tool just to kind of share about prominent things and announcements throughout the city. With the installation of that sign, and honestly when the purchase went through, staff then began working on a electronic sign policy just to create a guideline to assist staff in determining what can go on that message. It's not uncommon, in fact it's pretty common for most cities that have an electronic sign to have a policy like this. It's even more common for cities to receive requests for things to go on the sign from anywhere from a 100-year-old's birthday party or just an 8-year-old turning 8. But you receive everything far in between. So staff put together this draft, which has been attached just to ensure that we're being fair and that the sign is using or has appropriate use as we make those decisions for what goes on it. In terms of a policy overview, the policy lays out that it'll prioritize content, or the sign will prioritize content that is related to notices for public meetings, for governmental agencies, events and updates related to the City of Wyoming, Wyoming Police Department, and the Fire Department, as well as notices and events from Forest Lake area schools, and specifically we're talking about Wyoming Elementary as that falls within the borders of Wyoming. Election information for our residents, events that are sponsored or co-sponsored by the city, just the city itself, law enforcement agencies, or Wyoming Elementary. And then we also have on here nonprofit community events or that are occurring within the city of Wyoming that would also be partnered with us. For instance, we have the Anonymous Santa food drives. We do a blood drive now. It then also states, or it lays out the guidelines for anything that were to go on the sign, such as the events needing to take place within the city of Wyoming, the fact that city admin staff will review all submissions, and we reserve the right to approve, prioritize, and revise postings as needed. It's through software that we can schedule what goes on the sign and when, so you can change the order of what's occurring and how long that's up there. Each message will be displayed for no more than 7 days, and no more than one message per entity may be displayed per month for those outside entities. Messages from the city of Wyoming are going to take priority over all other content and may be displayed indefinitely. Postings containing religious content, political campaign information, personal messages, or unrelated business advertising are not permitted. And lastly, requests for postings can be submitted to, and then we should provide the generic wyoming@wymingmn.org email. So staff is recommending that the City Council approve of the electronic sign policy as presented.
Mr. McFarland, I think there was one thing you forgot to put in there, and that was that the mayor could have their picture up there at any time.
We've already got it prepped.
All right, questions. Let's start with Member Lugar.
I have no questions.
Okay. Member Onstad?
About the political, I know that we can't promote for anybody, but will we put like election information?
Yep, so that would state, it could state, we're limited in the space there, and we'll look into this more, but precinct location, when election dates are, what the election is, very, just baseline information on where to go to vote, those kind of things.
Yep, okay, thank
Member
you.
Schilling?
No questions. I'm still laughing at your picture.
Member Yeager?
The Wyoming Library, is it mentioned in the policy? Where does it fall?
I don't know if we had discussed that, Administrator Linwood.
That would be a community partner. We would look at the library that as they exist.
Would it be like
and,
governmental or a nonprofit or?
We pay for a portion of the library, so I would consider it a partner within the city. So they would have, maybe not clearly identified or stated within the policy, and we could add that, but they would have the ability to utilize the sign as well as a nonprofit, or technically they're really a government entry because they're East Central Regional Library. The county handles all the capital, we handle all the maintenance, so it really is under probably a government / nonprofit entity, but they would be allowed, yes, to advertise.
Yeah, that's
on
the
there.
bottom line. They would be
Yes,
allowed to
yes,
post.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and when do we think when is it going to be turned on in the first words to go up?
Sure, I'm aware of an electrician going out to site tomorrow to go look at the whole layout of it and how it's gonna work. I don't know for sure if it would be turned on tomorrow, that possibility, but I don't wanna state. And it's gonna happen if it's not for sure, and Mr. Linwood might know a little bit more.
I think we're hopeful, based on the electrician's gonna do the diligence on it tomorrow as far as the hookups and everything. I can't state, I think to Mr. McFarland, that it'll 100% go on tomorrow. We're hopeful, but we will be sure to let everyone know when it's up
I'm
and
gonna
running.
be out there.
Okay.
You know that, right? I am gonna be standing out there when that goes
There'll
on.
be, there'll be an electrician out there.
Better
so,
call me.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll call everybody in.
If
I
it
don't
turns on,
know.
I did it. If it doesn't, you were talking to them.
Yeah, stuff like that, it's been, most cities have signs and we haven't, so that's very exciting. All right, so I will make the motion to approve an electric sign policy for the City of Wyoming electric sign. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Luker. All in favor?
Aye.
No? Passes. Just making sure. All right, 28, to consider a proclamation declaring National Police Week as May 11th, 2025 to May 17th, 2025. Mr. McFarland, are you taking this one, or Mr. Linwood?
Sorry, one sec. Yeah, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, this upcoming, May 11th to 17th is National Police Week. And so with that, I believe we did it last year, and I can't speak to before that, but we have a proclamation here declaring that it's National Police Week then within the city of Wyoming.
All right, questions? Member Yeager,
No questions.
Member Schilling,
No questions.
Member Onstad.
No questions.
Member Luker.
No questions.
Do we typically, Chief Bauer, people bring stuff in, don't they, during that week? Like snacks and whatever, or do we do a
Periodically, yes.
dinner or lunch or whatever?
We have not.
Okay,
I can talk to Mr. Linwood about what that might look like.
yeah. I mean, we do it for public
There's
safety,
some
or public
funding-
works, so,
Some funding stuff we gotta figure out, but yeah, we can talk about that.
well, you never know,
Yeah.
residents might chip in too. Okay, awesome. All right, so we need a motion to approve the proclamation declaring National Police Week as May 11th, 2025 to May 17th, 2025. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Member Onstad, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Schilling, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so approved. Number 29, to consider a proclamation declaring National Public Works Week as May 18th, 2025 to May 24th, 2025. Mr. McFarland.
I'm back. Yes, May 18th to May 24th will be National Public Works Week. We have our next city council meeting on the 20th, so we just wanted to get ahead of this one to make sure that we had the proclamation before it had already started. This again just honors the public works employees that we have and celebrates them by putting forth a proclamation and getting ready to celebrate them and all the work that they do. So,
Perfect, thank you. We wouldn't have good streets and water and all that if it wasn't for you guys. So, questions? Member Onstad?
No questions.
Member Luker?
No questions.
Member Yeager?
No questions.
Member Schilling?
So if you see a public works person, we give them free lemonade. Can't do beer.
No, you
No
can't.
questions.
Yes, very good. All right.
Yeah.
Did we all have dinner
But,
before we got here? Because I'm feeling like that didn't happen. All right, so we need a motion to approve the proclamation declaring National Public Works Week as May 18th, 2025 to May 24th, 2025. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion by Member Luker. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Member Schilling. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. And the last one on our agenda, number 30, to consider a proclamation of the City of Wyoming, Minnesota designating May 4th through the 10th, 2025 as Small Business Week in Wyoming, Minnesota. And I hope we don't hear any corny jokes with that. Mr. McFarland.
yeah, the last proclamation here for us this evening is that proclamation for Small Business Week for May 4th to May 10th. I think it's especially important in the city of Wyoming just with our amount of small businesses and the manufacturing we have and so forth that this proclamation just lays out small businesses' role in the United States, and you can also consider how it plays a part in Chisago County and within the city. So this just goes on to celebrate that and proclaim that within the city of Wyoming.
Yeah, and I think, do we have over 100 small businesses? I don't know if, Mr. Linwood, do you know, isn't it about 100 or something? Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, so that's awesome for our size, right? So, we love our small businesses. Questions, Member Onstad,
No questions.
Member Schilling,
No questions.
Member Yeager,
No questions.
and Member Luker.
No questions.
All right, we need a motion to approve the proclamation of the City of Wyoming, Minnesota, designating May 4th through the 10th, 2025 as Small Business Week in Wyoming, Minnesota. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Motion by member Onstad, second.
Second.
Second by member Schilling. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So approved. We'll go to council reports. We will start with member Luker.
I have no reports. Thank you for coming.
Member Onstad?
I attended the Park Board Commission meeting last night, where we discussed some of the items that were on tonight's agenda.
Nice. All right. Member Schilling?
I have no report. Thank you for those that showed up and those watching.
Member Yeager?
Oh, I attended the Planning Commission rezoning open house, and thank you for coming, and thank you all for watching.
All right, I have kind of a list. I wanted to say congratulations to the Hallbergs for the Arts 10th Anniversary Gala. Saw lots of great pictures, and we're very happy that it's just a great amenity here in our city for Hallberg for the Arts. So congratulations to them. I did attend the Planning Commission, the Joint Sewer Commission, also the open house for the Planning Commission rezoning map that we had last week. Also the information meeting for the 2025 open house public information for our road project. Last but definitely not least, I'd like to wish Pat Rylander a happy 90th birthday. She's such a huge supporter of our city, of our police and fire, of our public works, and of our council and all staff. So I wanted to wish her a happy birthday. All right, so it is 7:56. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We have a motion to adjourn by member Luker. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by member Schilling. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?